Hello, my name is Alan Ferguson. I'm the head groundsman with Ipswich Town Football Club in England, and today I'm happy to share my knowledge with you. In recent years, training has intensified as fitness techniques have improved. This has meant an enormous amount of extra work for groundsmen and field managers across the globe who facilitate football pitches. As you can see from the session going on behind me, it's done now through special mannequins and cones. This is very sharp, a lot of twisting and turning, and so the desire to build a natural strength in the fields has never been greater. This is why we now see the diversity of fields that we see. Some sand-constructed fields with fibre in them to try and boost the resilience of the top surface. But the most difficult task will almost surely come from this type of training on natural pitches, as we see here today. The maintenance of any football pitch is like a jigsaw puzzle. It will have many pieces, but always the cornerstone of any puzzle will be the one that pulls it all together. And in the case of maintenance of football pitches, it's almost certainly going to be the aeration one. Whether your pitch is sand constructed or whether it's a natural construction, you will have to carry out a degree of aeration. This will typically be done over the whole year and could be done by a variety of machines. And a selection of the tools like these will be needed to determine what machine you select and what depth you work to. We'll always aerate pitches to relieve the compaction that's built up from other maintenance operations and through play and training. The first tool that you would select to use would be a petrometer or a compaction tester. A simple tool that you would push into the ground, and as you do so, the dial on the top moves around the dial and it determines where the pitch is tight. This is now starting to get fairly tight here, so I will remove it from the pitch, and I can see that the 50mm increments on the stem here, I have compaction building up around about 250mm. This allows me then to make the selection of the right machine and also to select the right pin on the machine. I may have other problems in the top surface here, and to do this I will always certainly use a profiler and take a slice from the pitch. I'll try and drive this as far into the pitch as I can before removing it and then releasing the section of pitch that I have extracted. From this I can see where the root break currently lies, and you can see here a very distinct break round about 5 to 6 inches, so approximately 125 to 150mm down. So I'm almost certainly going to want a pin or a tine or a blade on these machines there that's going to help to open this region up down at the bottom of the profile, allowing the roots to penetrate further down. To get an idea of the solidity of the ground, I might put a profiler like this in where I can take a section out. And I can see here I have a fairly solid stem, so already from previous maintenance operations, the rooting is already very good here in the top 125mm. So our aim for this pitch here has to be to promote the root from here further down the profile. The most common type of machine on the market today for the aeration of soccer fields will be the piston-driven type machine, such as this one here. This machine is a Wiedemann German model, but there are several different types of machine on the market doing a very similar job. The beauty of such a machine like this is the grounds manager has a choice of tine with spacings and depths that he can work to, so allowing you to focus on the whole root zone region within your pitch. If I'm going to do a deep practice, it may be a 250mm solid tine such as this one here. I can get as many as 4 of these on one head, so across the machine I'm going to have some 24 different tines making holes anything from 25mm down to 250mm into the pitch. At the end of the soccer season, when I'm looking to relieve some of the compaction out of the field, I may use a special coring tine such as this one here, or a bigger solid tine here to really move the root zone about. In the season, I'm more likely to opt for a multiple tine that's on the machine to allow me to bring the centres closer together and to focus on developing the root. Sometimes the problems in a pitch profile will be right at the bottom of the profile, and then you have to rely on very specialist types of machines to achieve the depths to get there. This can be over 300mm in depth, so over 12 inches into the ground, and you would almost certainly need to use a very specialised blade such as this. This machine will run very, very slowly in the ground and will cut the full working depth there, freeing up any compaction from the top surface down to a depth of 300mm. The most important thing for the ground manager then is to assess the performance of the machine actually on the turf. And here, with using a simple ruler and a depth measure, I can check the spacing between the holes. I'm getting a very good 55mm by 60mm pattern. And I can check the depth by simply putting the depth probe into the ground and then measuring it against the ruler. I know I'm getting over 100mm of depth, which is excellent for the type of operation that we're doing today. If the field manager's choice is to have used a deep aerator such as a ground breaker or an earthquaking type machine, then it's very important that you assess the performance of that so you know the compaction has been completely removed. The only way to do that test with such a machine would be to use a compaction meter such as this one. And quite simply now, you should get the most of this probe into the slit. So by putting the probe into the actual slit and then applying the pressure and just pushing down there, you should see the probe slide into the ground. This is an excellent result, and this means the machine has achieved the success we were looking for today. We've already seen how we aerate fields, and if you're running a rolling programme, you'd almost certainly have to have a good regular aeration programme to prevent the field top becoming compacted. But the most important thing about the roller is the overall weight of it. This roller is in 3 sections, and each section is no more than 250 kilos in weight. I think this is the maximum weight you should be applying on a regular basis to any field. And if the field has had a particular hard session or a bad game, then you can have the option of using this folded, so you get each of the 3 sections of 250 kilos following each other. To have flexibility of a system like this is a very good option for a field manager. But I think what you must always avoid is the big, heavy type rollers. These have no place in football pitches, and they will cause enormous damage to leaf tissue, giving you further problems later in the season. Sometimes it's the cultural practices, the smaller things in the jigsaw puzzle that make the most difference to the fields. Any maintenance that's going to be done in a field wants to be done in as ideal a condition as possible. And certainly before we do any of the mowing type operations, we would almost certainly want to have the field brushed. But regular dew brushing to remove surface moisture in the morning is a very skilled thing. If we use the wrong type of brush, a lot of damage can be inflicted onto the leaf by tearing. It's very important when you're selecting the brush that you select as fine a bristle as possible so that there's no bruising or tearing on the leaf. The action of the tractor also is very important. Again, it's a very regular type of operation, so we select a small tractor with the appropriate wheel on the tractor. Also, a good speed has to be selected. You have to go quick enough to remove the dew, but not too quick that you cause any turning damage at the ends. Another type of brushing will be using a machine such as a litomizer. These machines are very important and help keep the surfaces clean during the season and also cleaning during the renovation. They are typically larger tractor mounted machines and will brush with a very vigorous brushing action and will leave a lovely clean surface. They can remove dead and decaying material from the crown of the plant, again preventing thatch build-up, which is lead to subsequent divoting. These machines would be used on a frequency of 3 to 4 weeks and would be there to take all the loose material away from the top of the surface. Dew brushing is as important in the stadium as it is on the training centres. It's probably more important in here, given that we have a wrap-round environment and the dampness is likely to hang around longer on the leaf. The same criteria exists here in the stadium as exists up on the training centre. We have to select a very fine bristled brush, something that won't tear or bruise. And also, because we're trying to minimise the machines onto the pitch, something we can do by hand. As groundsmen, one of the most regular jobs we'll ever have to undertake will be the mowing of the fields. If this is done well, it can enhance a field and give a superb look for television presentation or general crowd pleasure, or ultimate player satisfaction. But done badly, it can look awful. So now we're going to go over the actual setting up of the machine. To determine the height of cut, we will use a bar gauge like this. The height is determined by taking a rule and measuring from the face of the bar to the underside of the bolt. We're also going to set the on-cut because it's important that the grass is cut properly. We're looking for a sharp, scissor-like cutting action that's very clean, that's then going to minimise the damage on the surface of the leaf. This in turn will minimise the risk of fungal attack and any other potential disorders or discolorations that would then show an adverse reaction onto the leaf. At the height of any growing season, fields would be expected to be mown on a daily basis, with removing as little grass as possible. In the winter part of the season, cuts are dropped and the frequency can drop down to maybe once a week or twice a week as is required. It's important when your operators set these machines that they use equipment such as this to prevent fingers from becoming stuck in the cylinders. Lubrication is also very important. These machines are performing at high speeds, and greasing of all key maintenance parts is a vital part of the preparation to ensure the machine performs to its optimum levels. With the machine now set and ready to go, it's now down to the operator to make the final checks on the field to make sure there's no obstructions such as broken studs, small stones, sticks, any other obstructions. This would only serve to damage the machine and would take away from the quality of the cut. It's also very important when you're mowing to mow each time in a different direction. This is to help what we call tillering, so that the grass forms a carpet-like surface on the pitch. This also aids the pace and travelling of the ball and the movement of the player over the surface and helps to keep the surface nice and even. And in the wetter months, we would tend to come down to pedestrian machines to try and decrease the weight. Weight is very important in a stadium because we're trying to minimise the amount of times we actually have to go onto the surface with equipment such as aeration equipment. If we look at the cylinders on the machines here, each cylinder will be fitted with 9 knives. This still gives us a high quality cut, giving us a clip removal rate of around 110 cuts per metre. We have a grooved roller with a comb here to help to stand the grass up to enhance the quality of the cut. And then if we look at the pedestrian machines, you will see it's similar. So regardless of what machine we go to take onto the pitch, the quality of the cut is exactly the same. Each of these cylinders here or here will give the same 110 cuts per metre. All has the same capability to stand the grass up and to groom it as we go. But winter time and wear is very important. This is just over 200 kilos, this is 150 kilos, and that's sitting around 350 kilos. So we have the options and we have to make the selection ahead of each individual game to ensure we get the right cut. Presentation in the stadium is all important. That's why when we use a pedestrian mower, we turn with boards on the side to prevent the paint being transferred onto the pitch. It's unnecessary and it can be very unsightly. The same applies when we use the ride-on mowers. If you have a synthetic track or a hard track, always make your turnings on there. The height of cut range will always be the same in the stadium as it is on the training ground, so try and keep the surfaces the same. I wouldn't cut any lower than 22mm or any higher than 25mm. I may let the grass come up to 28mm in the summertime when we do the work out of season, so the grass comes in nice and thick and tight and then is conducive towards a good playing surface for the forthcoming season.